My best friend and I were just trying to survive. His plan, the stunning young widow of a corporate titan. Mine, her stepdaughter, the formidable heiress to the entire empire. Best friends turned into, well, it was complicated. We spent the better part of a year grinding, determined to walk away with our pockets full and our hearts intact. But then they announced their engagements to other men. The checks they tossed on the table were our severance package. You gotta stick to your own league, Kalen said, all fake bravado. That's the truth, I agreed. Besides, he added, it's not cool to break up a family. Time to pull the plug. The absolute truth. We're out. So we took the buyout, chartered a yacht with a dozen models, and planned to sail around the world. We'd barely left the harbor before the boat spun around and headed straight back to shore. The engagements were fake. The whole thing had been a test of our loyalty, a test we had just spectacularly failed. Kalen and I came from decent families, but our talent for burning through cash got us cut off and kicked out. We both had degrees from good schools. Finding a job to get by wasn't a problem. The problem is we were used to a life of bottle service and impulse buys, of throwing money around like it was nothing. The 9-to-5 corporate grind and its sad little paycheck held zero appeal. We couldn't handle the struggle. So we made a pact. We'd leverage our best assets, our faces, our charm, and our 8-pack abs. I managed to catch the eye of Serafina Reed, the heiress to a top-tier fortune. Kalen, not wanting to break up the team, went after Serafina's stepmother, Elara Shaw. Just like that, our lives became a dream. Eat, sleep, party, repeat. A world of luxury at our fingertips, full of neon lights, endless cash, and minimal responsibilities. The two women were only 3 years apart in age. Elara had only been married into the Reed family for a couple of years before Serafina's father dropped dead on a golf course. His billion-dollar estate was split down the middle, turning mother and daughter into bitter rivals. They fought for control of the Reed Corporation, flying all over the country for meetings, their private jets crossing paths in the sky. Under their command, the fortune left by Old Man Reed didn't just sit there, it ballooned. They were perfectly matched opponents, two sharks in the same tank. The financial press called them the black and white roses of Wall Street. Every time I saw a headline on Bloomberg about them conquering another market, Kalen would sigh dramatically. At the rate they're going, this gravy train won't last forever. To protect our meal tickets, we invested heavily in ourselves. Performance supplements, personal trainers, anything to keep us ready to serve at a moment's notice. We were on call 24/7, ready to drop everything at their beck and call. We worked our asses off, but the crisis came anyway. To break their stalemate, they decided to bring in outside reinforcements in the form of fiancés. As a man, having another man slap a check on the table in front of you is a special kind of humiliation. We slunk back to the penthouse, cursing under our breaths. Let's be real, Kalen said, doing reps with a kettlebell. It's all about your background. I mean, would we ever seriously date some girl with nothing to her name? No. I admired my biceps in a mirror. You got a point. Kalen transitioned to a one-handed pull-up. A man's got to have principles. Wrecking a home is bad form. We should make a clean break. I quietly spit the mouthful of my kale and spirulina vitality shake back into its thermos. You're right. We're out. I was so done with this life, done with the days of being on a strict diet only to get a text canceling plans at the last minute, done with the cold showers and the constant readiness. Now, with a fat check in hand, it was the perfect time to run. Brother, I said, a grin spreading across my face, our real lives are about to begin. Getting away should have been easy, but we didn't rush it. They had rules for us. Stay ready, stay clean. Those were the basics. But the most important rule of all was absolute loyalty. No matter what happened, we couldn't have a change of heart unless they were the ones to end it. So, even knowing they were getting married, we had to maintain our professional cover. As long as they didn't tell us to get lost, we had to stay. Our plan: act like we knew nothing, but secretly buy a condo and start moving our things out piece by piece. We'd also plan our epic global getaway. The day they finally told us to scram, we'd be on that yacht before they could finish the sentence. I was in charge of real estate. Kalen was in charge of travel. The very first night we put the plan into action, both Elara and Serafina came home completely unannounced. Kalen and I exchanged a silent, knowing look before heading off to our respective duties, running a bath for our mistresses. Later that night, Thinking about how we'd soon be going our separate ways, I got bold. The tables were about to turn, and I was determined to unleash months of pent-up frustration. The next morning, I went downstairs to make breakfast and found Kaylin already in the kitchen, humming a song. We looked at each other, both looking refreshed and ridiculously pleased with ourselves, brothers in arms to the very end. At breakfast, the two women were surprisingly civil, a rare truce in their ongoing war. After they left for work, however, Kaylin and I found ourselves kneeling on gaming keyboards. Why not something worse? Because they knew how much we valued our sensitive fingertips from marathon gaming sessions. Once they were gone, we got to work. I spent the day bouncing between 10 different luxury condo viewings while Kaylin was glued to his laptop, planning our travel route, accommodations, and everything in between. That evening, we met up to compare notes. I bought some Cokes, Kaylin said with a sly grin. Want one? My eyes lit up and I nodded furiously. Hell yes. We'd been so obsessed with maintaining our physiques for them, I'd almost forgotten what soda tasted like. He split a small bottle between two thermoses. We clinked them together with conspiratorial smiles. But just as we were about to drink, the door opened. Alara's sharp gaze swept over us. Is something going on? We both shook our heads. She clearly didn't believe us and started walking toward us, ready to interrogate. Just then, Serafina walked in too. The two women locked eyes, and you could practically see the sparks fly. Kaylin and I seized the moment, grabbing our thermoses and retreating upstairs to run their baths. What the hell is with them? Kaylin whispered. They barely come home once a month. Rule number 1, I shot back, don't ask questions about the client's business. After dinner, it was time for our nightly cardio. For the sake of our keyboards, however, Kaylin and I decided to tone it down a bit. The next morning, they left for work and we were back at it. That afternoon, I found a perfect condo and called Kaylin to come take a final look. We decided to grab dinner out and celebrate. We were halfway through our burgers when my phone rang. It was Serafina. She was home. I practically flew out of the restaurant. My hand was on the handle of a taxi when Kaylin caught up to me, his face just as pale. Alara had called him too. For the next 3 days, we were basically sex slaves. I found myself brewing another batch of my disgusting vitality shake. Kaylin was hunched over, clutching his back. I seriously thought I was going to die on that bed last night. I silently lifted my t-shirt, revealing the red welts from a whip across my lower back. We have to get out of here, he whispered. Now, what's the point of earning a fortune if you're not alive to spend it? We stopped being picky. We bought the first decent condo we saw with cash and started moving our stuff out like ants, bit by bit. It was a massive undertaking. We had accumulated so much crap, and we were sentimental fools. In a walk-in closet alone, we packed nearly 20 boxes, all designer clothes, shoes, bags, and watches they bought for us. Nothing cost less than $5,000. After the courier from the Real picked up the boxes, Kaylin and I collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. We had our excuse ready in case they noticed. We just didn't like the stuff anymore and were selling it secondhand. That night, of course, they both came home again. I silently added an extra handful of ginseng to my vitality shake. Kaylin placed an emergency order for 24 oysters. After dinner, I was duly drying Serafina's hair when I heard Kaylin scream from the other room. It was followed by the unmistakable crack of a whip. My heart pounded in my chest as I looked at Serafina's hungry, crimson-flecked eyes, and my knees went weak. The next morning, I went downstairs to make breakfast and bumped into Alara. She was wearing a silk robe, her brow furrowed as she rummaged through the pantry. Do we have any ginger and honey? She asked, her expression softening slightly when she saw me. Yeah, here, I said, handing them to her. You catching a cold? It's for Kaylin, she said, her face in a motionless mask. I froze. Kaylin never got sick. Because Kaylin was unwell, Alara stayed home all day. Serafina didn't go to work either. She noticed my closet was half empty, but didn't ask why. Instead, she just said she'd take me shopping to restock it. So Kaylin spent the day in bed, and I spent the day on a forced shopping spree. Looking at my newly filled closet, I felt a crushing weight of despair. The next day, Kaylin and I switched places. On the third day, we were finally able to see each other again. I've never worked this hard for money in my life, Kaylin sighed. I could only nod in agreement. He ran his hands through his hair, looking like he was on the verge of a breakdown. She tied me up with a candle. A shiver went down my spine. The good news is, they're not coming home tonight. The air was silent for a moment. Kaylin sprawled on the couch. No idea what Serafina's doing, but Alara's on a date. He let out a bitter laugh. You think that nerdy guy in glasses she's with can last 10 minutes with her? I remembered Serafina on the balcony last night, blushing as she talked on the phone after it had to be with her fiancé. A heavy sigh escaped me. Truth be told, I was Serafina's first. Deep down, I cared about her a lot. If I could, I would have been happy to be her kept man for life. But alas, I clapped Kaylin on the shoulder. Don't get jealous. These top-tier women are a limited edition. Guys like us, they can find a million of us. With that settled, we went to pack up our personal treasures. Kaylin collected rare gaming figures and anime statues. I was into limited edition Legos and high-end fishing gear. Most of it was bought with their money, though they never paid any attention to our hobbies. We decided to leave a few things behind, just in case. With them gone for the night, we moved from our collection rooms to the kitchen, clearing out all the performance-enhancing supplements and foods. Kaylin curled his lip. Should we leave it for their new guys? Hell no. I growled. I paid for this stuff. Why should those assholes get it for free? The next day, they returned. I had just run Serafina's bath and was about to leave when she walked in. Together, she said. It wasn't a question. I really didn't want to. But who says no to the woman who signs the checks? I just need to grab something, I coughed. I bolted downstairs to the kitchen and shoved half a bottle of ginseng extract. Kaylin bumped my shoulder. Hang in there, man. 2 more days, and we're free. I patted his back. Save some energy for the escape. The water level in the tub was significantly lower by the time I carried Serafina back to bed and started drying her hair. Her perfectly manicured fingernails traced circles on my thigh, making my skin tingle. But after the hell of the past few days, I pretended not to notice. Once her hair was dry, I rushed to clean the bathroom, hoping she'd be asleep when I came out. Instead, she was sitting up in bed, looking impossibly seductive, a small riding crop at her hand. I instinctively clenched my thighs. We're not so busy lately. Serafina's eyebrow arched. She hated talking about her work with me. Sorry, I mumbled. Broke your rule. She laughed lightly. I've been exhausted. Taking a few days off. Relieved she wasn't angry, I said sincerely, you really should get some rest. Even a field as fertile as hers needed time to recover. Her red lips pursed. She stared at me for a few long seconds before tossing the crop onto a nearby sofa and sliding under the covers. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and carefully laid down on the very edge of the bed. The next day, Serafina left early. Alara had breakfast with Kaylin before leaving too, but not before Venmoing him $20,000. Her eyes darted down to his crotch. Buy yourself something nice to eat, she said pointedly. You need to replenish. Kaylin smiled and saw her to the door, but the second it closed, his face fell. 3 times yesterday. He groaned. Aren't women supposed to be like this in their 30s? She's only 28. I couldn't help but laugh. Alara was a few years older than Serafina and had been with a man before. She was naturally more open about that stuff. Serafina was different. That night with me was her first time. If it wasn't for her competition with Alara, she was actually quite traditional. Thinking of her shy blush that night, my heart ached a little. Just then, my phone buzzed with a notification, a new deposit. I glanced at the amount and my jaw tightened. Kaylin saw it and burst out laughing. Misery loves company, brother. After the gallows humor, we did one last sweep of the condo, grabbing everything that was ours. All we had to do was wait for our chance to run tomorrow. That afternoon, Serafina came back. She had a gala that night and a business trip the next day. She'd be gone for over 2 weeks. She picked out her outfits, and I packed them, thinking this was the last time. I pulled her into a hug, a wave of sadness washing over me. Her ears turned pink, but she pushed me away when I tried to deepen the embrace. Come on, she said. We have some time. Let's go shopping. Buy you something you like. I shook my head. I don't need anything. She raised an eyebrow. I noticed a lot of your Lego sets and fishing rods are gone. My heart hammered against my ribs. She never came into my space. She just used the dining room, the bedroom, the bathroom. How could she know my things were missing? And have you bought more supplements? As she figured it out, I forced myself to stay calm. I'm surprised you pay attention to my stuff. In the past, she only ever gave me money, never questions. Serafina looked away, a faint blush on her cheeks. You mind? For a split second, my heart soared. Then it crashed back to Earth. I was just her property. So, did you buy the supplements? She asked again. And just like that, the last flicker of warmth died. Of course, that's all she cared about. I'll go tomorrow, I said flatly. Since I clearly didn't want to go out, she didn't push it. To kill time before her gala, she said she wanted to watch a movie. We went to the private theater with its starlit ceiling, and I put on a romance, a clean one. After the movie and a tense dinner, she got ready to leave. Want to come with me? She asked just as she was about to walk out the door. I was stunned. She was engaged to someone else. What was she thinking bringing me? I don't know anyone. I'd just embarrass you. She was silent for a moment, as if realizing her own misstep. You're an amazing man, Ren. Don't sell yourself short. Besides, you'd be with me. No one would dare disrespect you. I smiled and thanked her for the compliment. It's not that. It's just, it would be so boring. She didn't push it again. The gala will run late, so I won't be back tonight. I'll fly out straight from there tomorrow. Let me know what you want me to bring you back. I leaned in and gave her a soft kiss on the forehead. I'll love whatever you bring. It's getting late. Drive safe. The moment she was gone, I texted Kalen. Where are you? Hotel, he replied instantly. On standby, post-gala duty. I rolled my eyes. After confirming our meeting time for tomorrow, I hung up and finished packing the last of his things for him. I was so excited for our escape that I was still wide awake at 2 a.m. Then a text from Serafina. That woman brought Kalen here. I should have brought you too. A pang of regret hit me. I can come meet you. I knew she'd say no. A moment later, her reply came. Go to sleep. We have all the time in the world. No, I thought. We don't. The next morning, I got the text from Kalen. Will's up. They were gone. I grabbed my bag and called Uber. The 90-minute drive to the marina felt like an eternity. When I finally saw Kalen, we hooped and spun each other around in a hug. We strode onto the yacht arm in arm. 12 women in bikinis greeted us in unison. Welcome, gentlemen. I stared at Kalen, dumbfounded. Was this part of the plan? Were we really going this hard? Feels good to be the boss, doesn't it? He said, beaming. He had a point, but it felt like too much. Still, the money was spent. Kalen popped 3 bottles of champagne, spraying them everywhere before diving into the crowd of women, a girl on each arm. Let's get this party started. Champagne, music, beautiful women laughing. The vibe was electric. As the yacht pulled away from the shore, Kalen jumped onto a table. To freedom. I took off my glasses, unbuttoned my collar, and pulled my shirt out from my pants. After more than a year of playing the part of a well-behaved boy toy, the straitjacket was finally off. With a roar, Kalen ripped his shirt open, swinging it over his head. I'm a free man. The yacht listed slightly, and he almost fell off the table, but nothing could ruin our mood. Why are we turning around? One of the women asked. Kalen and I froze. A sick feeling washed over us. He immediately tried to call the captain. No answer. I paid for a month. He yelled at his phone, his jaw clenched. Still nothing. We looked at each other, the dread intensifying. Forgetting everything else, we sprinted toward the bridge. We could not go back to shore. We were stopped at the door by 2 men in black suits. Mr. Hayes, Mr. Morris, we haven't docked yet. Please enjoy the party a little longer. Kalen looked ready to fight, but I put a hand on his shoulder. Save your energy, man. The yacht docked. Through the window, we could see a wall of black suits waiting on the pier. It was over. We were dead men walking. The 12 models were politely escorted off the boat. It was just us. We staggered to our feet, propping each other up. Our hearts were numb. At least Serafina and Alara weren't there. It was just their security detail. We breathed a small sigh of relief. Maybe we could talk our way out of this before they got back from their trips. But then the town car pulled up to the penthouse, and they opened the door. There they were, sitting on the sofa, one on the left, one on the right, waiting. My legs turned to jelly. So much for their all-important business trips. This was never about business. Our little escape plan. They saw it coming a mile away. Alara's red heels clicked on the marble floor. Looks like we both lost our bet. Serafina tossed a stack of photos onto the coffee table. Having fun? They were all pictures of us on the yacht, looking like kings of the world. It was all a setup. Kalen managed a pathetic, trembling smile. This is just a misunderstanding. Alara crooked a finger at him. She grabbed him by the collar and dragged him carelessly toward the stairs. Kalen looked back at me, his eyes pleading for help. Sorry, brother, you're on your own. The bedroom door slammed shut upstairs. A moment later, Kaylin's blood-curdling scream echoed through the penthouse. I took a step, but Serafina's cool voice stopped me. She rose gracefully and started up the stairs. "Don't be impatient, run," she said, a wicked smile playing on her lips. "We'll settle our accounts in our room, slowly." Outside, the sun was shining, but for me, the world had just gone dark. And it was dark. After a full day of settling accounts, I was so hungry my stomach was eating itself. I tried to crawl out of bed to find food, but Serafina's hand clamped around my ankle. "Where are you going?" Now that she was satisfied, she looked even more alluring. "Aren't you hungry?" I croaked. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes drifted to my waist. I felt a chill run down my spine and quickly grabbed the discarded bath towel from the floor to cover myself. An army marches on its stomach. She didn't say anything, which I took as permission. Outside the room, I tiptoed to Kaylin's door, trying to hear if he was still alive. The door swung open. Kaylin emerged, a dark bruise under his eye, walking with a severe limp. His expression was completely vacant. Our eyes met, and we both felt a surge of emotion. "It's good to be alive," he whispered. In the kitchen, we grabbed a container of goji berries and shoved handfuls into our mouths like robots. I had never craved that disgusting vitality shake more. If only we hadn't cleaned out the kitchen yesterday. After refueling, we synchronized our stories. We would deny everything. We weren't running away. We were just feeling stifled and needed to get out and have some fun. We would stick to this story until we died. Back upstairs, I brought Serafina a cup of bitter black coffee, holding it to her lips like a servant. "You feed me," she said, her voice a low purr. If she weren't so angry, I might have found the strength to say no. It took half an hour for her to finish the cup, but her expression finally softened. "All right, talk. Why did you run?" she asked. "Was I not good enough to you? Was the money not enough?" I kept my head down. I was just bored. Needed a change of scene. She didn't believe me, but I wouldn't budge. We had a deal when this all started. The power to end things was in their hands. A deal's a deal. I have my pride. She didn't press the point. "Just stay by my side, Ren. I'll take care of you." The implication was clear. Even after she was married, she wanted to keep me. I was silent for a long time. Things had gone too far. It was time to clear the air. "You think your fiancé is going to be okay with you having a man on the side?" I, the kept man, couldn't even stomach the thought of sharing a woman. Did her future husband have some kind of threesome fetish? Serafina raised an eyebrow. "What makes you think I have a fiancé now?" Now it was my turn to be stunned. I remembered what they said when we were caught. The bet. This was about the company again, wasn't it? She didn't answer directly. A look of sadness crossed her face. "I didn't think you'd actually leave, Ren." Her voice was quiet. "I can't believe you were so ready to just walk away." My heart started beating faster. Could she have actual feelings for me? I was desperate to know, but I didn't dare ask. She sighed. "I don't know what to do with you." I fought to control the storm raging inside me. "I apologize for causing you trouble." Her brow furrowed. "Is that all I am to you? Trouble? Your boss?" "Of course not. But could I really hope for more?" She looked down, her expression wounded. "I suppose so. A guy like you never had a shortage of beautiful, talented girls flocking around him in college." "College?" A bitter smile touched her lips. "Of course, you don't remember me at all." I racked my brain, but came up with nothing. Seeing my confusion, she explained, "Freshman year, the varsity basketball game. I was walking by the court and got hit with a stray ball. You were the one who carried me to the nurse's office." The memory hit me like a lightning bolt. The girl had been heavy. I was playing a game, and none of the bystanders could lift her, so I stepped in. I didn't pay much attention to her face. I just remember she had thick glasses and heavy bangs that covered half her face. My most vivid memory was the nosebleed, a lot of blood. It got all over my jersey, and she kept apologizing over and over, her voice choked with panic and embarrassment. "That was you?" I said, completely stunned. She looked nothing like that girl. She blushed. I had a complicated relationship with food back then. After I recovered, I wanted to thank you properly, but my family had a sudden issue, and we moved overseas. When I came back years later, I started looking for you. I was surprised to find out you were looking for a sponsor." She didn't need to say the rest. My toes curled in embarrassment. "I must have been a real disappointment," I mumbled. Her fingers gently touched my lips. "No, you were just as dazzling as you were that day." Looking into her shining eyes, I couldn't hold back anymore. "Serafina, I like you a lot. Let's be together for real. If I hadn't been so jealous about her supposed engagement, I never would have run. She turned her head away, but the tips of her ears were bright red. I pulled her into my arms and kissed her with all the devotion I'd been suppressing for a year. That night was a sweet, intoxicating dream. The next morning, I was stirring a pot on the stove, smiling like an idiot. Kaylin jabbed me in the ribs. What's wrong with you? Serafina and I are dating, I announced. Kaylin stared at me, then picked up a glass of water and splashed it in my face. Wake up, dude. The dream's over. No, you don't get it. We're actually seriously dating. He was speechless. After I told him the whole story, her secret college crush, my slow burn love for her, he looked like he was about to cry. We're brothers, right? We grew up sharing everything. What's mine is yours, right? I nodded solemnly. And then Kaylin told me his story with Alara. He had caught her eye because he bore a striking resemblance to her late husband, Serafina's father. Old man Reed had sponsored Alara through college and later hired her at his company. They had fallen in love and gotten married. He had been a mature, charming, and gentle man, and he had planted a seed of love in her heart that had grown into a towering tree. Even though he was dead, that love was very much alive. Kaylin grabbed his hair, his voice cracking. How am I supposed to compete with a ghost? I put a sympathetic hand on his shoulder. He was right, he couldn't. Don't overthink it, I offered weakly. You're the one who's with her now. Yeah, he said, his voice laced with self-loathing, as a stand-in. I had no response. Kaylin and I had grown up privileged, with doting older sisters and a carefree attitude. We were idiots when it came to real feelings. We'd gotten into this whole arrangement on a dare, curious to see if the rumors were true that rich women were wilder than men. We never intended to catch feelings. Negative, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I think Alara is totally immune to you. A flicker of hope lit up in his eyes. Really? I had no idea. But I couldn't crush him. This is a long game, brother. You have to be patient. To win the war, you had to know your enemy, and the person who knew Alara best was Serafina. To help Kaylin, I got dressed up, bought flowers, and asked Serafina out on a proper date. Now that everything was out in the open, the tension between us was gone. This is the first time you've ever officially asked me out, she said, her arm linked through mine. I swept her up in my arms and carried her to a nearby park bench. Passers-by smiled at us. Serafina buried her face in my chest, a shy, captivating gesture. I swallowed hard, trying to distract myself. I need to ask you about something. She looked up. About Alara? I was surprised she guessed so easily. I can't stand her, Serafina admitted, but I have to concede she's brilliant, and she truly loved my father. If Kaylin wants to win her heart, it's a lost cause. I didn't doubt her for a second. So there's no hope? She's young. Is she just going to be alone forever? Serafina pursed her lips. Frankly, I wish she would start dating. It might distract her. Of course, for them, it was always about the competition. She thought for a moment. He could try playing hard to get. I thanked her on Kaylin's behalf. She snuggled closer, tracing circles on my chest. That's not the only way you can thank me. I grabbed her wandering hand and practically ran us back to the car. The windows fogged up, a testament to my love. Kaylin took the advice to heart. He stopped being the cautious, pleasing puppy around Alara. He dyed his hair back to its original sandy blonde, shedding the stuffy, old man persona. The swaggering, confident Kaylin Hayes was back. Alara didn't say anything, but her gaze grew distant. When he asked her what she thought of his new look, she just said, "If you like it, that's all that matters." She says she doesn't care, but I know she'd rather look at old photos of me than look at me now, he told me later, nursing a drink. She might as well just look at pictures of him. He laughed bitterly. I can't do this anymore. It was a fantasy to think she'd ever choose me. Seeing my confused look, he took a long swallow of whiskey. She's going on dates, arranged ones. Her next husband will be her equal in business. Before I could say anything, he splashed his face with water, his energy seemingly restored. I'll give it one last shot. If it doesn't work, I'm out. After talking to him, I went back to my room, lost in thought. She came home with several new limited edition figurines he'd wanted. He thanked her politely, then told her he was ending their arrangement. Her only response was, "How much more money will it take for you to stay?" Kaylin, who was always so easygoing, finally snapped. He smashed everything in the living room. Faced with his absolute resolve, Alara finally agreed to let him go, but asked him to wait. Wait for what? For her to find another man who looked like her dead husband? I expected Kalen to lose it, but instead, he was eerily calm. Fine. His heart was finally completely dead to her. After that, they went back to their old, strangely intimate routine. Kalen even started helping her screen candidates for his replacement. Alara in turn started spending more time at home with him. Meanwhile, Serafina and I ended our Cold War, but the easy intimacy was gone. She knew what was bothering me, but she refused to address it, as if silence would make the problem disappear. On Kalen's birthday, the four of us gathered for a rare dinner. Over the meal, Kalen teased Alara about her chosen fiancé going bald. She calmly replied that she had already commissioned dozens of custom hairpieces for him. Fueled by alcohol, I looked at Serafina. Yours is a good choice, too. Very handsome. She stared right back at me. We should all get together sometime. Under my icy gaze, she added, he'll bring his partner, of course. Of course. She said it as casually as if she were asking if I'd eaten lunch. We weren't just in different leagues. We were from different planets. I couldn't play their sick, elegant games. After dinner, Kalen and I cleaned up while they talked business in the living room, arguing over control of the company. It was the same old fight. Alara insisted Serafina couldn't run it alone. She had promised her late husband she would protect his legacy. Serafina accused her of being a hypocrite, but the company's name was Shaw, and she would never let an outsider take control. They could fight with fire and fury over a corporation, but when it came to us, we were nothing more than disposable distractions. Back in my room, I refused Serafina's drunken advances. Let's break up. She frowned, trying to reason with me using their twisted logic. Just meet them, please. Then you can decide. I wanted to say no, but the look in her eyes told me it wasn't a request. On the day of the meeting, Serafina was in a surprisingly good mood. When we arrived at the restaurant, her fiancé was already there with his wife and their young son, a happy family. They greeted us with bright, welcoming smiles. Serafina cheerfully introduced me as her partner. Throughout the meal, she and the man discussed their business merger while I played with their adorable kid. The man's wife, sensing my awkwardness, leaned over. A title is just a piece of paper, she said kindly. I didn't answer. If she had the chance to have that piece of paper for herself, would she give it up? The dinner ended in a chorus of laughter and goodbyes. On the way home, Serafina squeezed my hand. See, Rin, they make it work. When we're married, we'll build a huge estate. We can live in separate wings. We'll never have to interfere in each other's lives. Whose last name will the kids have? I asked. A flicker of excitement crossed her face. Mine, of course. And what do you tell them when they ask about their father? Their mother? Kids understand these things when they grow up, she said dismissively. And they'll grow up to live the same elegant, empty lives, I thought. I pulled my hand away. Serafina, I can't live in your world. Thank you for liking me. Her face hardened. That woman can accept it. Why can't you? Make this one compromise for me. Why? Why was I willing to die for her, but not willing to live in the shadows? I shrugged. Even when you slum it, Miss Shaw, I can't climb high enough to reach you. Seeing she couldn't change my mind, she didn't try again. We drove the rest of the way in silence. The house, in contrast, was buzzing. Kalen was grinning, introducing us to the new replacement he'd found for Alara. The price was agreed upon. He was starting tomorrow. I threw my arm around Kalen's shoulders and congratulated him. The next day, Kalen and I walked out of that penthouse wearing our own clothes, not a single designer item on our backs. We left without a word. Alara didn't even show her face. Serafina made one last attempt. I just gestured to Kalen's replacement, who was standing nervously by the door. Do you need me to find you one of these, too? For the first time, I saw a true, unrestrained fury on her face. The look of a queen whose subject had just committed treason. The dream was over. We sold the condo and everything they had ever given us. After more than a year away, Kalen and I went home. Our parents yelled and screamed, but it felt like coming home to a warm blanket. This was real life. We went back to our old, lazy routines, but with one difference. We spent time with our families. A few months later, Serafina got married. It was the wedding of the century, a global media event. Just as she planned, Shaw Corp stock shot up for 10 straight days. She had won. She had beaten Alara. I thought Alara would be the first to get hitched, Kalen said, shaking his head. Her getting married isn't the surprise, I said, looking away from the TV. The surprise is that Alara hasn't gotten married yet. Kalen shivered at the thought. Brooke wants to meet you, he said, changing the subject. Dinner tonight. Brooke was Kalen's new girlfriend. They'd met as rivals in an online game, agreed to meet up to fight in person, and ended up falling for each other. Is it serious? I asked. He got a goofy, happy look on his face. I told her everything. About us, Alara, all of it. After leaving the penthouse, our past had become a ghost that haunted him. He'd switched to a flip phone to avoid seeing news about them and stop going out. For him to open up to someone meant he was finally moving on. He was doing better than I was. Yeah, man, count me in. After dinner, the three of us were wandering through a mall. Kalen spotted a rare figurine he wanted, but as he was about to pay, a kid snatched it out of his hand, claiming it was his. Being publicly challenged like that set Kalen's temper off instantly. Just as they were about to throw punches, a cool voice cut through the air. Stop it. It was Alara. I couldn't believe it. After all these months, we run into her in a random mall. The kid ran to her side, his eyes red, like a child tattling to his mother. He tried to take my stuff. Kalen and I both cringed. The kid vaguely resembled Old Man Reed, but he was so whiny. Yeah, it's yours, all yours, kid, Kalen said, already over it. He took Brooke's hand and started to walk away. That's it, the kid shouted, blocking their path. Apologize. Kalen tilted his chin up, looking down at him with pure disdain. Sorry. The kid was furious, but one look from Alara shut him up. Outside, Kalen pulled out his phone. I knew I should have checked my horoscope today. It's a bad day to go out. Brooke giggled. I have to admit, that woman is stunning. Kalen pinched her waist playfully. Are you not jealous? Do you not love me? I gagged. After we dropped Brooke off, we headed home. A luxury sedan was parked outside our house, a car that clearly didn't belong in our quiet suburban neighborhood. Kalen saw it and cursed. It was Alara. The living room was tense. Let's take this outside, Kalen said to her, his face a cold mask. After they left, I stayed to help my mom. Outside, the Queen of Wall Street seemed to have lost her edge. She was silent for a very long time, until Kalen finally lost his patience. What do you want? Her eyes softened. Come back to me, Kalen. He swore under his breath, staring at her like she was an alien. Are you insane? She looked stunned. He didn't hold back. Do you really think you're so special that I can't live without you? Her brow furrowed, her voice laced with displeasure. Did that girl change you? After years of being worshipped, she didn't know how to handle being spoken to like this. I've always been like this, he snarled. Now get the hell out of here. Haven't you had your fun yet? She said, her voice rising in disbelief. I waited months for you. I came all the way here myself. What more do you want from me? Kalen just looked up at the sky, exasperated. Lady, you're sick. You need help. He turned to walk away. She ran after him and grabbed his hand, but he violently shook her off. She stumbled and fell to the ground. The sharp pain finally made her realize he really didn't love her anymore. But she wasn't one to give up. She tried to pay off Brooke. She threatened her. She humiliated her. Kalen, furious, called Alara to meet him. He held a knife to his own face. If you ever come near her again, I swear to God, don't. She cried, her composure finally breaking. Don't hurt yourself. You know I can't bear it. He just laughed, a cold, empty sound. Cut the crap. I know what you care about. After that day, she never bothered them again. But she was always there, a wolf in the shadows, watching him. Sometimes it felt like she was looking through him, at the ghost he resembled. Other times, it felt like she was finally just looking at him. On the day of Kalen's wedding, a large gift arrived from Serafina. I hadn't seen her in ages. We had nothing to say to each other. Just as she was about to get in her car to leave, she turned to me. You still haven't changed your mind? I smiled faintly. Congratulations on getting everything you ever wanted. She looked down. If I got a divorce, would I have a chance? I kicked a loose stone on the pavement. Who knows? After all, life is full of surprises.